Hi and welcome back. So as the diseases of aging normally associated with older people continue to affect the younger population, this is the first study of its kind that looks at vitamin D as a preventative for early onset colorectal cancer. Enough waffling off me. Let's jump into the presentation and see what this new study has got to offer.
This is the review of a study that was penned by the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, a study that looked into consuming higher amounts of vitamin D, mainly from dietary sources, and how they may prevent against developing young-onset colorectal cancer or precancerous colon polyps. This is the first study of its kind to show such an association, and there are links in the description below to the studies and the articles I used to put this presentation together. The study, recently published online in the journal Gastroenterology by scientists from the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, the Harvard T.H. School of Public Health, and a number of other institutions, could potentially lead to recommendations for higher vitamin D intake as an inexpensive complement to screening tests as a colorectal cancer prevention strategy for adults younger than 50 years of age. While the overall incidence of colorectal cancer has been declining, cases have been increasing in younger adults, and this is a worrisome trend that has yet to be explained. The authors of the study, including senior co-author Dr. Kimi of the Dana-Farber Institute and Dr. Edward Giannavucci of the T.H. Chan School, noted that vitamin D intake from food sources such as fish, mushrooms, eggs and milk has been decreasing in the past several decades. There is growing evidence of an association between vitamin D and the risk of colorectal cancer mortality. However, prior to the current study, no research has examined whether total vitamin D intake is associated with the risk of young onset colorectal cancer. Dr. Kimi, the director of the Young Onset Colorectal Cancer Center at Dana-Farber, said vitamin D has known activity against colorectal cancer in laboratory studies. Because vitamin D deficiency has been steadily increasing over the past few years, we wondered whether this could be contributing to the higher rates of colorectal cancer in young individuals. We found the total vitamin D intake of 300 international units per day or more, roughly equivalent to 3 8-ounce glasses of milk, was associated with an approximately 50% lower risk of developing young onset colorectal cancer. The results of the study were obtained by calculating the total vitamin D intake from both dietary sources and supplements of 94,205 women who participate in the Nurses Health Study 2. This study is a prospective cohort study of nurses aged between 25 and 42 years. That began in 1989. The women are followed every 2 years with questionnaires on demographics, diet and lifestyle factors, and medical and other health-related information. The researchers focused on a primary endpoint: young onset colorectal cancer diagnosed before 50 years of age. They also asked through follow-up questionnaires whether they had had a colonoscopy, a sigmoidoscopy where colorectal polyps, which may be precursors to colorectal cancer, were found. Let's take a look at the results. During the period from 1991 to 2015, the researchers documented 111 cases of young onset colorectal cancer and 3,317 colorectal polyps. Analysis showed that a higher total vitamin D intake was associated with a significantly reduced risk of early onset colorectal cancer. The same link was found between higher vitamin D intake and the risk of colon polyps detected before the age of 50. This association was stronger for dietary vitamin D, principally from dairy products, than was seen from vitamin D supplements. The study authors said that these findings could be due to chance or to unknown factors that are yet not fully understood. So if you wanted to go down the dietary vitamin D route before looking at supplements, these are the foods that are rich in vitamin D. Feel free to pause the video and read the list in more detail. Obviously, this is not good for vegans. They would need to go down the fortified food route and look at cereals, fruit juices, and plant milks. Interestingly, especially for those who are over 50, the researchers didn't find any significant association between total vitamin D intake and the risk of colorectal cancer diagnosed after the age of 50. The findings were not able to explain this inconsistency, and the scientists said further research in a larger sample is necessary to determine if the protective effect of vitamin D is actually stronger only in young onset colorectal cancer. The investigators concluded that higher total vitamin D intake is associated with decreased risks of young onset colorectal cancer and the precursor polyps. Dr. Kimi closed by saying, "Our results further support that vitamin D may be important in younger adults for health and possibly colorectal cancer prevention. It is critical to understand the risk factors that are associated with young onset colorectal cancer so we can make informed recommendations about diet and lifestyle, as well as identify high-risk individuals to target for earlier screening." As of late, there has been some controversy over the amount of vitamin D needed for healthy functioning. Recent research indicates that you now need more vitamin D than was once thought. The National Institutes of Health recommend a daily international unit intake, which is IU, of vitamin D as follows. Children and teens, 600 IUs a day. Adults up to the age of 70, 600 IUs per day. Adults over the age of 70, 800 IUs a day, and pregnant or breastfeeding women 600 IUs a day. But in my humble opinion, this is a little reckless. The doses here are low and there is no recommendation to first get a blood test. So how can you recommend a daily dose if you don't know what the start point is? I recommend that before you start the supplement, you have a blood test, then consult a doctor to see what level of supplementation is needed to get you into the sufficient bracket. Personally, I had a blood test to see what my levels were and then started a supplement with vitamin D3 and vitamin K2. I now take 5,000 international units of vitamin D3 a day and 10,000 twice a week, and that's to keep me at the upper end of the sufficient bracket. If you take a test, you may not need to supplement if your levels are high enough, and this will then also save you money. Now, when talking about vitamin D as a supplement, vitamin K must also be mentioned. There are two forms of vitamin K. Vitamin K1, which is found in plant foods such as leafy greens, and vitamin K2, which is found in some animal products and fermented foods. Vitamin K2 can be further divided into several different subtypes, the most important being MK4 and MK7. One of vitamin K2's most important functions is to regulate calcium deposition. In other words, it promotes the calcification of bones and teeth and prevents the calcification of our soft tissue, such as blood vessels, kidneys, and our heart.
Well, I hope you found that interesting or informative, hopefully both. I've made some notes. So as with all the other vitamin D videos that I've produced, it's important to remember vitamin D is not a vitamin, it's a hormone, and is extremely important when it comes to fending off lots of age-related disease symptoms. As the age at which people start to now get age-related diseases continues to drop in the general population, I think getting a blood test and, if need be, increasing the vitamin D rich foods in your diet, and if you're a vegan, you can't do that, then supplementing with vitamin D is definitely got to be an absolute no-brainer.